Check one, check two, since you know what to do. What's going on, family? Grace and peace. Blessings, blessings, blessings. It's your boy. Hey, listen, I'm coming to you at a later time today. Let me tell you that real quick before we get into it. Like, today was a day. You know what I'm saying? Praise God for another day. But I stayed up late to like 1:30, almost 2 o'clock, just finishing up stuff, preparing for today's live, only to oversleep. I think I woke up at between 5:30 and 6, maybe closer to the 6 o'clock range. And by that time, it was almost time for my kids to get up. I live in New York. The weather was crazy, so my kids went to school virtually today. So we had to set them up and get them prepared, and of course had to be around just in case there was any tech issues or anything like that. So I didn't. Needless to say, I didn't get a chance to do any of, and I had a bunch of work that I actually had to complete for some clients. So needless to say, when my day got rolling, as soon as I put my feet on the ground, I was on. You know what I'm saying? It was you know what I'm saying? Like the light was green all the way. So I didn't get a chance to tap in with y'all this morning, but I said that I was going to go live every weekday for the rest of the month, and I meant it. So I'm here because I take my commitment seriously, and so today, um, I did a lot of shoveling. Me and my boys, So I'm needless to say, I'm tired, but nonetheless, we're gonna get some good this on today. So I'm going to be breaking down to my 6 minute content planner. Okay, my 6 minute content planner. I'm going to break down the framework for you, and why this is so important is that a lot of the times we're not creating content because we're overthinking, right? We're double, triple, quadrupling down or thinking about or second guessing, third guessing, fourth guessing our content choice, or what should we post, or is that going to be good, or is and we end up recording a bunch of stuff, and then it just sits in our camera roll, right? And we, oh well, and we begin to basically talk ourselves out of posting it. And so before you know it, I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, "Yo, I got so much content in my phone that I just didn't post." Right? Because she's overthinking it. And she, instead of just posting it right away when she's in the moment, when she's feeling inspired, when she's actually motivated to do so because she has something to say, instead of that, she just leaving it in her camera roll. And of course, if you don't post it right then and there while you're in the moment, then after that moment is fleeting, or once that moment goes, then it's going to be impossible for you to get it back. And then you start to actually second and third guess, should I even post it in the first place? Should I even post it? Right? Was it really that important? Was it really that dope? Was really what I thought it was? Right? Maybe I was just really just out of it, or maybe I was just being a little bit over excited in the moment. And so what we want to do, what we want to make sure is that we are not talking ourselves out of some of the best content that we could potentially be posting. All right. So we're gonna get right in. We're gonna get right into it. So here we go. The 6 minute content planner. 6 minute content planner. Okay. How to create content fast. Because here's what we want to do. And we've been, if you're just coming on, if this is the first time you're on a live, I salute you. Thank you so very much for tapping in. I have been going live for the past 2 weeks. This is the first day of my third week, and we're closing out the month. We're closing out the month strong. So we talked about clarity our first week. I gave you your content roadmap last week. Uh, we really dug deep into the importance of having clarity, because clarity influences or informs everything else. And with the roadmap last week, I basically went over planning your content. We went over creating a content schedule. We talked about how to strategize your content. We talked all the way through. We talked about how to be a better storyteller. We really unpacked a lot of great stuff last week. So please feel free to go back on my page, and you'll be able to catch all of the replays on all the lives up to this point. I started to actually teach on day 2. So you can start from day 2 and work your way all the way up to today. And today is day 12, I believe. So listen, we've been working. We've been working. So this 6 minute content planner, It's actually was inspired by my homegirl Jessica Amaru. I co-authored a book back here, and I'll show it. I'll show it to you in just a little while before we finish our live. But it's called Ready, Set, Plan, and Post. And she's actually the one. I'll just go ahead and put her on blast. She's actually the one who told me that she had all of this content in her phone that she just hadn't posted, and she was overthinking. And she was like, "Pop, you should have something that you teach people how to create content really quickly and post it, so they don't even have time to overthink it." And I was like, "Huh." And so her and I just kind of in conversation came up with this 6-minute content planner. And so buckle up. I hope that this is something that is beneficial. I believe it's going to be something that's beneficial to you. All right, so here we go. So very first, so does this ever happen to you? You sit down to create content. You're sitting there for hours. Okay, all right, and you're still staring at a blank sheet of paper, a blank screen, however it is that you brainstorm and jot down your content and ideas. Your hours and it's blank, right? You overthink every word. You second guess every idea. Can you testify to that? I know that I have, right? There's been so many times where I've convinced myself that that's not a good piece of content, only to go on the app and find and come across a piece of content. I'm like, yo, hold on a second. They literally, you can tell they literally had that idea in that moment. They recorded themselves doing something ridiculous, or just they recorded themselves doing something they were doing randomly that they may do all the time throughout the course of their day, or it's common to them, and they posted it, and they got thousands of views, right? So I say that to say I see that, and I end up kicking myself like, yo, like I should have just posted. I should have just posted what I was gonna post. That could have been the one, right? And then you hear countless influencers, that have hundreds of thousands of followers, and they tell you that the piece of content that they were meticulous, that they went over every detail, every nuance, that they recorded in 1,000K, that the video quality was crispy, the audio was crispy. They planned it out, they scripted it out, they put all of this time and energy into this particular piece of content, and it does nothing. But the piece of content where they just decided that they was going to pick up their phone and talk to the camera while they're taking a walk, or while they're at the gym, or while they're doing something that they had to do anyway, that is the piece of content that goes crazy. So a lot of the times, the content that we're overthinking isn't the content that actually does well anyway. It's the content that just came organically and naturally, that we just recorded on our phone and posted. That often, I'm not going to say oftentimes, but more. I'm not even going to say more times than not. But you'll find that the story that's behind that, people will say, "Well, I decided to post it, and it went viral." This piece of content that I literally didn't put any thought into, that I literally did not even plan, that I didn't script, that just came to me, that I was inspired in a moment, picked up my camera, spoke to it, and posted it. That thing has done better than these other pieces of content that I scripted and I spent hours producing, and it was high quality video, high quality audio, and all of that stuff for naught, because it got a couple hundred followers, or a couple hundred views, or a couple of thousand views, as opposed to this one that had tens of thousands of views. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying not to script, because that's what we were talking about last week. So scripting and brainstorming and structuring and all of these things are vitally important. However, not at the expense of you not being authentically who you are, or you not posting. The last thing that I said to y'all last week is, all of this strategy and all the game that I'm giving you means nothing if you do not press post. If you do not post it, if you don't share it, it doesn't matter, right? So I want us to just keep in mind that overthinking is literally hindering your growth. You overthinking may be the very thing that's keeping you from going viral, or keeping you from posting that particular post that's going to be the one that explodes, that gets you the visibility and the followers, and also the connection, right? Or the eyeballs, or bring the people in, so you can begin to form a connection with them that can ultimately lead to them being paying customers, ambassadors of your brand. So we want to dispel overthinking, and this is why this 6 minute this 6 minute content planner is extremely important. Okay, so here's a problem. Here's a problem, right? Content creation shouldn't take so long. Okay, it really shouldn't. If we are taking if we are spending hours trying to figure out a piece of content or trying to figure out a a thing to post, then we're not in a good spot. That means that is a clear indication that we're overthinking. All right, clear indication that we're overthinking. So you're stuck in perfectionism. How about that? Can I get a witness in the congregation? How many of you are stuck? How many of us are stuck in perfectionism? How many of us are stuck in perfectionism? How many? And not only are we stuck. Not only the question being how many of us are stuck in perfectionism, but how many of us are stuck in perfectionism and we're guising it and we're disguising it as, oh, I just wanna, under the banner of, I just want to operate in excellence, right? I want everything that I put out to be excellent. Uh, if we're not careful, we will use perfectionism and excellence, so to speak, as a crutch. We will use it as a defense mechanism, right? We will convince ourselves that the reason why we're not posting is because we just don't want to put anything out there. We want to put our best foot forward. And if it's not up to a certain standard, then we're not going to post it. Understood. Not saying that that's necessarily wrong. But if you can be honest with yourself and look at what you have posted using that mentality or mindset, then I'm sure that you'll come to the conclusion that you're using it as a crutch as opposed to an actual ideology, right? You're not really not posting because you want it to be perfect or not posting because you want it to have a certain standard. You're not posting it because there's something about it or something in your head that is that doesn't want to put it out doesn't want to put it out there, particularly if you spent a lot of time on it and it's not well received. Because I believe that if we put a lot of time into something and you put it out there and it's not well received, that does something to our self-esteem and ego as a creative, right? And that could really, 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 really hit us hard. And if that's something that's done repeatedly, meaning we're constantly putting stuff out there that we've put time and energy and effort into, and it's not being well received, that could come off as rejection. And deep down inside, we could be feeling rejected. And so instead of us putting it out there, yeah, I put the time and energy into it, but instead of me putting it out there, you know what? I'm going to find every single nuance or every single small minute detail that I can find that I, oh, well, this needs to be better, or this needs to be better, this needs to be better. And I'm constantly going to be tweaking at the expense of me putting it out, at the expense of this actually being the one. And so I don't want us to be in bondage to that anymore. I want us to be free from that. But you're stuck in perfectionism. You're trying to make it just right. Have you ever said that to yourself? I want it to be just right. Meanwhile, your competitors are posting and winning. They're posting and winning. Your competitors are posting and winning. Okay? You are focused on getting it just right while your competition is posting and getting it right as they post. They're getting it right as they're pumping out content. They're allowing each piece of content to get better and better and better and better and better, as opposed to waiting for it to be perfect and just right before you post once. If you watch any boxer, right? Any boxer worth their salt, very rarely, very rarely, unless you was Mike Tyson back in the, you know what I'm saying, back in the 90s, okay? Very rarely is a boxer going to win by throwing one punch. Very rarely. You have your unicorns where the moment was just right. You know what I'm saying? The punch was the timing was just perfect, right? Hit the opponent on the jaw, lights out. But very rarely is that the case. That is the exception and not the rule. In order for you to be able to have a better chance at winning the fight is based upon the the punches that you throw, the strategy behind those punches. Because imagine you're sitting in the corner and the coach is giving you all of the game that you need to actually win the fight and position you and put yourself in the position to be able to win, right? And be able to combat your opponent's onslaught or be able to counter your opponent's punches and be able to use their strengths against them. And your coach is giving you the blueprint, but you get out there and you do none of it. You don't throw a punch. You know what I'm saying? You barely bob and weave, right? You're not going to win the fight. So I equate this to you versus your competitors. If your competitors, if they're throwing punches, if they're throwing out there throwing punches, then the probability of them connecting on one is far greater than if you're just sitting there waiting for the right time to throw a punch, hoping and praying that the opportune time or moment presents itself so you can throw the punch. So let's not be the fighter who is trying to win with one punch. Let's get into the ring with our content, metaphorically, of course. Let's get into the ring with our content and let's throw punches, man. Let's throw punches. Some of them is gonna land, some of them ain't. But the probability of us being able to post something and land something, right? Land a piece of content that goes, right, is higher when we're posting. Now, we're posting, of course, with a purpose. We're posting with a plan. We're posting with a strategy. So we're just not throwing anything up against the wall. This is what week one and week two is all about. We're actually throwing strategic punches. We're throwing strategic. We are very methodical and very intentional and purposeful with the moves that we make and the punches that we're throwing, but we're throwing them nonetheless. And this is how we want to be with our content. Now that we have clarity, now that we have a content roadmap, now it's our time to begin to implement and execute. Because this whole week we're talking about execution, and this 6 minute content framework or this 6 minute content planner, this framework is your first step in being able to execute. Your first step in being able to start to throw those punches strategically, with strategy, with purpose, right? So I want to. So what we have to do is we have to get out of this mindset of perfectionism. We have to put perfectionism in the back seat. We can no longer allow it to drive. Right? We can't be looking for the just right moment. We have to get our reps up. All right. And this is what we're going to be talking about and discussing and walking through this week. Executing on your content strategy, executing on that clarity, executing on the roadmap and the pillars and the storytelling tips and everything that we learned last week, so that this way you can begin to put those things into action and start getting your reps up and getting your punches out there. All right, cool. So here's the truth. You don't need hours to create great content. You need a system. You need a system. The 6 minute content planner gets you from idea to post fast. All right. Who did I hear? Who did I hear say this? It says it all the time. Um, Success loves speed. Was that Nehemiah Davis? I think that might have been Nehemiah Davis or my guy Marcus. I heard it from somebody, but success loves speed, and that's true, right? Particularly in this game of social media, where your audience to your people are being inundated by messaging every single day. There are literally, I'm sure, hundreds, depending on how often they're on social media, whatever their selected platform is. They're getting inundated with different messages. They're getting inundated with different content. They're getting inundated with different ideologies every single day, okay, for hours on end, depending on how often they open up whatever app of their choice, right? So we have to keep that in mind, that they're not just sitting around waiting for us to start talking to them. They're not. Other people are talking to them while we're trying to talk to them, right? And if we're not, and this is what strategy, this is what planning, this is what intention, this is why it's important. But here's also why it's important that we get out there and post. That we get out there and we are putting our foot to the pedal and producing content and getting it out there quickly. This is why we instituted. This is why Jess and I came up with this 6-minute content planner, because we wanted to create something where it a streamlined process that gets you from idea to post as fast as possible without overthinking. Because overthinking, that's killing you. So if we can get you to think of the idea, compose the idea, post the idea as quickly as possible, then you're going to find yourself in a much different situation. And the more you do that, you get your reps up, the easier and the faster you'll be able to come up with ideas and execute those ideas. And then you'll become a lean, mean content creating machine. And that's what the goal is. All right. So here's the roadmap. All right. Here's a roadmap, and that's the wrong title. I was supposed to put another title in there, but it was 1 o'clock in the morning. All right, but here it is. So the 6-minute content planner, 6 questions, 6 minutes, one complete content idea. Okay, so we're going to be breaking down a little bit the hook, the takeaway, the type, the media, the CTA, and the value. Okay, these are going to be the questions. This is the framework of the questions that you're going to ask yourself. Okay, and once you answer these 6 questions, you literally are done. You got a piece of content that you can go ahead and create and post. All right, here we go. So here's the 6 questions. Number one, what is the hook? Now the hook is the attention grabber. Um, Based upon articles that I read, and even some of the articles that I read, and also some of the influence that I actually have the opportunity to be able to converse with. The first 3 to 5 seconds is the most influential, or most most important part of your video, because it's within that time frame, 3 to 5 seconds. And I know that is not a lot of time, but between the first 3 and 5 seconds, a person is deciding, or has decided, whether or not they're going to stick around and watch the rest of your video. Okay? So if you don't grab their attention in 3 to 5 minutes, 3 to 5 seconds, then you lost them, and potentially you may not actually ever get them back. And so what I'm going to do with this hook is, because I'm not going to go super deep into it and give a bunch of examples now because it's late. But what I'll do is, when I do create the description and things like that for this particular video, in the description of the video, I'll give some hook. I'll give you some hook frameworks that you can use that are going to be universal for any niche that you're in. Okay, so what's the hook? So this is the first question you want to ask yourself. What's the hook? We start with the hook. Okay, this is what we start with. The reason why we start with the hook, and shout out to my guy Travis and Dan from Social Boom. Shout out to them. They are my content creation coaches. Man, they've been coaching me for a couple of years now. But what I remember being on one of the master classes, and Travis was like, he doesn't even create his video until he's created his hook. He doesn't even script out the rest of his video unless he has a good hook, right? Because he is a firm belief that the hook is essential, because it's the thing that captures their attention. The rest of the video or the rest of the scripting or the rest of what else he has to say means nothing if in the first 3 to 5 seconds that individual has scrolled or skipped past the video because the hook didn't grab them, right? So the hook is something that is paramount, that's foundational, and we work our way backwards after we have created a strong hook. Okay. All right. Second question. Second question. What's the takeaway? Main message. What, again, we're reverse engineering it. Okay? What do you want them to get from this? What do you remember we talked about last week that every single piece of content has to have a job, has to have a purpose, right? There's no we have no unemployed content in our arsenal. Every single piece of content has to have a purpose, and every single piece of content has to have an expectation. Okay? And this question is in direct alignment with that teaching. What's the takeaway? What do you want them to leave with after they have watched your video? What is the takeaway? What is the message? What do you want them to learn? What is that tidbit? What is that piece of advice? What is it that you want them to take away? Okay? And you're going to base your messaging around what you want them to take away. The third question that you have to ask yourself is what type of post? Okay? This harkens back to and is in alignment with your with the 3 levels of awareness, and we talked about this. There's some other nuanced levels in between those, but we primarily dealt with awareness, education, and authority. When we say, when the question that we're asking, that you want to ask yourself, is what type of post, is because you want to be able to assign and be clear. Well, let me take assign back, but you want to be clear on who or what group of people at what level of awareness do you want to speak to? Is this a piece of content going to speak to the person who's never who may just be discovering you? Is this piece of content going to speak to someone who knows of you and but maybe doesn't necessarily trust you yet? They're still on the fence as to if you're their person. But if they are on the fence, then you're giving them education, you're giving them how-tos, tips, tutorials that are going to give them quick wins. Okay, is that what you're going to do and speak to that particular awareness, that awareness tier? I'm going to say in your awareness funnel, or is it an authority content? Are you speaking? Is this piece of content a conversion piece of content where people who are already locked in with you, who trust you, who are at this point die-hard fans of you, if you will, or is this piece of content going to be to them to move them to your coaching program, or move them to come into your store, or move them to take advantage of a discount code, whatever that happens to be? But you have to ask yourself, what type of post is this going to be, and who am I going to be talking to, or what who I'm going, what level of awareness am I targeting with this piece of content? All right. Question number 4: what media? So is this going to be an image? Just an image? Is this going to be a video? Is this going to be a carousel? What medium, right? What form of media is going to allow you to express this message and get across your point in the most effective and aesthetically pleasing way? Maybe you're super great at writing and persuasive writing, so maybe a carousel post may be the move for you, because through the carousel post you're able to with every slide build momentum, right? Build momentum, build curiosity, and get them to the end, to wherever your call to action, and whatever your call to action is going to be. All right, and we'll get to that next too, right? So we have to pick what medium are we going to be using? Is it going to be an image? Is it going to be a video? Is it going to be a carousel? All right. Number 5, the 5th question that you got to ask yourself: what's the CTA? What do you want them to do at the end of the video, at the end of the carousel, at the end of in the caption of the image? Ultimately, what do you want them to do? Because if you are not clear about what you want them to do, then they most certainly will not be clear as far as what to do, and they will do nothing. All right. I can't stress that enough. If we are not intentional about telling folks what we want them to do, then they're going to do nothing. And on the converse of that, if we tell people to do too many things in our call to action, they're not going to do anything, right? If we don't tell them to do anything, they're not. If we don't tell them to do nothing, they're not. If we tell them to do too much, they're not, right? So it's important that I was always advised to have one strong call to action. One very clear, concise, strong call to action. Do not ask them to comment this and then go to your website and do that, and then go to their DM, go to your DM and do this. Don't give them 6, 7, 8 instructions. Because I know for me personally, if you're telling me to do too much, I'm not gonna do nothing. I'm gonna move on because that's just way too much. And again, we're trying to make, the whole point is to make everything that we're doing as streamlined as possible. We want to make this thing, we want to make it so easy for people to fall in love with us, so easy for people to hit that follow button, so easy for people to buy from us. We want to make it easy, because the more complicated or unclear or ambiguous someone is, or our approach is, or if they have to ask too many questions, those become objections and they will move on. And they may move on to someone who's less informative as you, who has less talent than you, who has less knowledge than you, but because they were clearer than you in their communication in regards to what they offer and what they wanted the person to do, they're going to go with them. So please keep that in mind. That was question 5. And question 6, what's the value? Why should they care? Why should they care? Right? This, I think that is a very important question, because this again goes back to one, back to day one, back to week one. Well, not day one, but week one. Being clear. When you're clear on your niche, when you understand their pain points, you understand where they are, you understand where they want to go, and you understand what they need in order to get to where it is that they need to go, then you use that intel and that insight in order to be able to clearly state to yourself your value assessment. Okay? Why should they care? Because they're struggling to lose stubborn belly fat without having to go to the gym 5 days a week and stop eating the foods that they like. Right? So if you're presenting some idea or a workout regimen or an alternative to that, where they can get the result that they want without having to give up the things that they like, then that right there is your value proposition. That right there is your value proposition. I think I said that twice. That's your value. That's why people will care, because you have literally the solution to their problem, right? And what do we say? Our product and our service is not what? Not a product or service at all, but it's an answer to a prayer and a solution to a problem. All right, cool. So these are the 6 questions that you would ask yourself, and you only want to take a minute to answer each one of these questions. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Let me just go ahead and keep it real. This is something new. So this may not take you 6 minutes. The idea, in the ideal world, ideally, this should only take you 6 minutes. But to be fair, to give yourself grace, it may take you 18 minutes. It may take you 20, it may take you 30. But nonetheless, you still have a framework of questions that is going to help you to compose a solid piece of content with all of the elements that you need to be able to hit your target and hit it hard. Okay? So don't be discouraged if it takes you a little bit longer than a minute to answer these questions. what we want to do is what we are looking to do. Um, what we are looking to do is we're looking to get to a point where you can use this framework and use these questions to be able to come up with content ideas 6 minutes, right? And really utilize this framework, and so much so that you adopt it, that it becomes a part of your mental framework when you're composing your content, when you're composing your ads, when whatever it is. Like, this becomes a framework that becomes so a part of your creative workflow that it becomes second nature to you. Okay, and that's ideally where we want you to be. Last slide. Last slide. All right, last slide. Your 6 minute sprint. All right, so you'll set a 6 minute timer. All right, you'll answer the questions for one piece of content, and and create it and post it. Well, tomorrow, because it's late. It's late today, but tomorrow or even today. You know what I mean? That's cool. You can certainly do that, right? So set a 6 minute timer, answer the 6 questions, and that's going to, and right after, once that 6 minute timer is up, ideally you'll have a piece of content to be able to post today or tomorrow, right? And as you continue to do this, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And what you'll find is that this is gonna take overthinking completely off the table. Completely off the table. All right. So there you have it. There you have it, family. Your 6 minute content planner. Set your 6 minute timer. Give this a try. If it, have your 6 minute timer and you only on question one, it's all good. Give yourself some grace. But as I said, the idea is for us to build our muscle, build our content creation muscle, and that we will be able to get to a point where we can use this framework to knock out content quick. All right, where we can answer these questions in 1 minute each. Okay, so there it is, family. Thank you so much for tapping in with me. Even though it's late, I appreciate it. I know that you may be tuning in and watching this replay from all different parts of the country, or even in a completely different time zone in another country somewhere, another continent. And if that's the case, I salute you and I thank you for this. I'm going to end here, and as always, as customary, I want to pray over you, pray over your family, pray over your business, pray over your content creation journey. All right. Father God, we thank you for the blessings of this beautiful day. Lord, although, overslept and I overslept and wasn't able to get on live this morning, I'm so grateful that you still opened up the ability tonight to be able to still get on live here and pour in to my family on the other side of this camera. Lord, I want to pray for each one that's viewing, each one is going to watch the replay. Bless them, bless their families, Lord, bless their businesses, bless their content creation journey. Help them to no longer overthink. Help them to be able to master this 6 minute content planner formula. Lord, help them to get so dialed in and so intentional and so clear on their audience and their people that they're able to answer these questions quickly because they know who they're talking to and they know what they need. So, Lord, I'm praying, Lord, that you will expand their territory, that anything that they stand in need of, you will provide, that you will provide healing, that you will provide strength, that you will provide guidance and leadership and wisdom through the power of your Holy Spirit. And I pray, Lord, that as we do business, we also we don't just do business, but Lord Father, we worship you in our businesses, that our business and our entrepreneurial journeys will be that thing that draws us closer to your heart. So I thank you and I praise you. And as I go to bed, I pray for I pray for safekeep for myself, for my brothers and my sisters, and also for our families as well. Till tomorrow, we ask that you will be between us while we are apart one from another. We thank you and we love you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, family. Appreciate y'all. And I'm going to see y'all in the morning, 5 a.m. Peace.